Hello, Where We Are listeners. If you're a longtime fan of this podcast or you're just joining us for the first time today, we want to tell you more about our podcast platform called Spotify for Podcasters. We've been using this platform for over a year, and it's been easy to use, and new features are added all the time. You can record and edit podcasts from your phone or computer. You don't need anything fancy, and you don't need previous podcast experience. When you hit publish, you will distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify if that's your kind of thing. And with Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. But here's the thing, you can earn money, but it's a free platform. There's no catch. If you're curious or want to see what it's all about, download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
On this week's episode of Where We Are, it's our Lame Turkey episode. That's right. For the first time ever, we're the first two people to ever put this together. On this week's episode of Where We Are, we'll talk about both Thanksgiving and the lame duck session of Congress coming up. Hence, the Lame Turkey episode. If anyone has done this before, don't tell us. Thanks for listening. You're listening to Where We Are. I'm Michael Ware.
I'm Melissa.
And Melissa, we're just innovating here on the Where We Are podcast.
Yeah, should it be Turducken?
Yeah.
It just hit me that it's the Lame Turducken episode.
The Lame Turducken episode. Yeah. Oh, no, that may be layering too much meaning. But, no, I like it.
We contain multitudes.
You especially.
Yeah.
We had a great week. 4 years ago,
Yes.
we had Thanksgiving dinner.
Mm-hmm. I filled up. I was 37 weeks pregnant.
You went Black Friday shopping.
Yep, because I wanted to get out of the house, go for a walk.
You came back.
Mm-hmm.
You got into bed.
At midnight, yep.
And interrupted my sleep
Yep.
to tell me that I had to wake up because you were going into labor.
Yeah, because my water's broke.
Yeah. And 4 years later, we have a goo.
We have a goo bear.
So we celebrated Saoirse's 4th birthday, and that was just a blast. Had family with us really for the whole week, which was wonderful. And so celebrated her birthday, had Thanksgiving dinner, which I must say,
You crushed it.
I crushed it. There were some concerns. People said, I don't know if he's prepared. He's been on the road. Can he really get back into the kitchen and without much exhibition practice time operate on that high of a level as executing a Thanksgiving meal? And folks, the jury is in. I could. I did. I have. It was a great Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, the mac and cheese was the best yet. This is the mac and cheese recipe that we're going to stick with from now on.
I think so.
The other star was the mashed potatoes, because I found randomly, I was scrolling through TikTok, and there's this cook on there who altered this recipe she found online for mashed potatoes, and I thought it looked delicious, and it in fact was.
It was so good.
Very good. It's the kind of mashed potatoes that you can reheat again and again and again, and I've never really had mashed potatoes that you could reheat properly.
Yeah, and honestly, mashed potatoes were the one thing that I always felt flopped year after year, so I was willing to go
to TikTok.
I was willing to go to TikTok, and TikTok delivered. Let me tell you that. My surprise, it's a mostly conventional Thanksgiving meal. I do put beef in my stuffing. That has thrown Melissa's side of the family for a loop, including Melissa.
Yeah.
And so this year I made two different stuffings because I'm not going to not have my grandmother's stuffing. And so we have it's like when two become one, stuffing excluded.
There are still two stuffings.
We kept our bank accounts are joint.
Stuffings are not.
Stuffings are not.
Yeah, my stuffing this year had apples and chestnuts in it. Which
I made that. Yeah. I made that too. I was willing to contribute to the joy of you and your family, and apparently the squirrels, because there's a lot of that stuffing left, and we're going to need to feed it to someone.
I know. There's a lot of your stuffing left too.
Well, but I think
I know, but you always end up eating stuffing for like 3 weeks straight, very joyfully and happily.
No, that's right. Until I could see mold forming. I'm like, this is safe. This is good.
I just love while we're recording this from Saoirse's birthday party. We have Frozen 2 decorations up, and they're like these reflective snowflake things because the snowflake theme throughout that second movie, and it's like creating a disco
I didn't
effect.
know. I didn't. There's a snow ice theme in Frozen.
No, but people who have seen Frozen 2 will know that there is like this icy snowflake.
Maybe I didn't watch closely enough. I didn't pick up
logo
on the
thingy throughout the entire movie that was not in the first. Michael, get it right, get it tight. You need to watch these films with your daughter. Anyways, this snowflake is reflecting off of the light, and it's creating like a disco effect. So I'm like watching Michael talk, and it's just like this like sparkly light is just going round and round in the room.
No, yeah.
And we're gonna talk about the lame duck session with this like disco light.
Yeah, and then we're gonna introduce Donna Summers and the Bee Gees.
Last chance.
Into our living room.
Is that the song, or am I thinking of a completely different artist?
I think that's Donna Summers.
Tonight.
Yeah. Bow, bow, bow. Yeah.
Right?
I think that's Donna Summers.
I don't know music from that era.
Okay, we need to look that up.
Yep.
So that we could cut that if we're wrong, because that would be embarrassing.
I'm gonna Google right now.
Okay, but I'm gonna keep powering through, and we could just circle back and delete it. Anything else about Thanksgiving? I mean, so went super well. I was very happy. I will say I'm getting older. The 2 days of cooking hit my body differently. I think I need one of those like mats that we used to have when we were cashiers at Wegmans. To just
those
help
mats
with
are so needed when you're a cashier, and they're very much needed when you're in a kitchen.
Whew. But,
your back was killing you. But I don't know. I'm already into full Christmas mode. I have transitioned. We watched Charlie Brown Christmas
I
Night
think we
with
need
Saoirse.
to put up. I think we need to put up decorations.
We're gonna put up the Christmas tree.
High church liturgical folks don't hate, but
we love having our Christmas tree up for like 3 months.
Yeah. And then Baltimore has this amazing.
Yes, Baltimore is a great Christmas market. It's not very big, but they do import the little German huts. They import
Germans too.
Yeah, they actually have Germans at this German Christmas market. So they have one bigger center to sell like ornaments and stuff like that. But then they have about 8 to 10 little huts outside. From Germany, decorated like they're in Germany, selling Glühwein and bratwurst and all that type of food. Because German Christmas markets are my ultimate number one favorite thing.
Her on earth. Absolute favorite. She walks into one and she weeps.
I literally cry.
Yeah, it's moving to watch. And so we'll do that. And I think Lara's gonna be so
Larry's gonna be so enchanted this year by the lights.
Yeah. I think she'll be enchanted by the lights.
She'll love.
I think she won't know exactly why she's excited, but I think she'll pick up on Saoirse's excitement.
She's gonna lose her mind when we put up the Christmas tree tomorrow.
100%.
She's gonna just pick a specific ornament and then just keep on taking it off and putting it back on. So we gotta make sure all of our breakable ornaments are at the top.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, I think that covers the turkey part of the episode.
Now we're on to the duck part of the turducken.
No. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that is, well, gosh. So there's a lot to talk about with this upcoming lame duck turducken session of Congress. I mean, I feel like we could make this stick, Melissa. No, like if we drive this hard, we can 100% get like an NBC News headline that's like Turducken session of Congress. Like squad goals.
Our own squad. We formed our own squad, the Turducken squad.
Yes. I think before we get to that, I think we should just acknowledge I did reference it on the Morning Five.
Yeah.
Briefly. Which is that Donald Trump did announce.
Right. Yes.
He is running again.
Yes.
You know, you have a incumbent, or you have a the most previous leader of the Republican Party running again. Certainly shouldn't be counted out. I would say at this point it has to be the favorite. I do have to say I think you referenced maybe in an early episode the possibility of sort of Republicans sort of freezing him out. I think we're a long ways from that, but I was, my kind of approach was, well, gosh, we thought that was happening before, or we thought that could happen before, and it didn't, so I'm going to be really skeptical. But we are seeing, a number of prominent Republicans kind of be sour on Trump. Now, whether that actually makes a difference, I mean, this is one of the other like narrative retellings of how Trump's ascendance, which is that like Republican leadership like rolled out the red carpet for him. That's just not how it went down. Through much of the primary, you had much of the establishment opposing Trump, and it ended up not mattering.
Yep.
And I think what some people wanted to see was, even after he won the nomination, more Republicans say in 2016, like, we're just not going to accept him as our nominee. We're going to support Hillary, or like, I don't know exactly. People just wanted a more forceful rejection, and in 2016 that didn't happen from too many people. And so, we'll see what happens if Trump, picks, is able to maintain his base of support, and you get into a primary where he's able to take down the competition. We'll see. It might not get that far, but Trump is running again. I will say one danger is, I mean, there are a lot of sort of significant concerns that one might have. This is a more sort of parochial one, which is, Melissa, it offers the opportunity for evangelicals in particular to continue to develop their politics in reaction to Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And we've talked on this show before just about the fact that both on the progressive and the conservative side, I've been concerned with like a Trump lens on all things politics, in a way that's pretty limiting. And with Trump running again, it sort of extends that window where folks can, you have a lot of folks pretending that, Trump emerged out of nowhere. You have some folks who seem to want to keep Trump at the center of our politics no matter what. And so obviously we'll continue to track that. Thankfully, we won't have to talk about the presidential race too much too soon. But, once you get into April, May, then, you'll really, unfortunately, for those of you who are tired of sort of campaigns and would want a longer break, once you get into April, May of 2023, you start seeing more candidates announcing, and you start to see sort of the chess pieces on the board move. But before we get to that, Melissa, we have the Turducken session.
We have the
Congress.
Turducken session.
And so, Melissa, what is expected to come up during this session?
So if we just talked about Trump, I think it's logical to just mention that the January 6th report, the House's January 6th committee, their final report is expected mid-December. So that's just, pretty much a couple more weeks, 3 more weeks. And it's expected to be around 1,000 pages. So it's going to be hefty. And the Washington Post...
So we'll do an episode on it in like 2025.
After we read it, yes. Yeah. So the Washington Post has gotten some reporting on this, that Representative Liz Cheney, especially as she is leaving Congress, that she is going to be focusing most of these 1,000 pages on Donald Trump, and some of these former and current staffers are a little bit wary of this strategy. So there's that. The committee members will hold a presentation event and synthesize their findings before the Republicans take over the House. So we should expect to see that, or we might not. There's some of the scoop out there that Washington Post also got is that there are some findings that just will not be revealed to the American public, which, again, some of the current and former staffers are a little bit wary about that as well. So mid-December, we should be seeing this 1,000-page January 6th this House committee report.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Melissa. Hey, you said something there I wasn't quite clear on. You said that there are some concerns about the committee not making certain information public. Can you say a bit more about that?
So in the Washington Post report, these sources, they express concerns that important findings unrelated to Trump will not become available to the American public. That's basically, this report would be so focused on President Trump that a lot of what they feel is super important info just won't become public, not just because it's, I think, classified or whatever, but also because the report will be so hyper-focused on Trump.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. All right. Well, that's something to keep an eye on, and it's just one of many things that Congress is going to be working on between now and the new session.
Right.
So just like the 101 here is, so a lame duck session, just officially, it's a Turducken session.
It's a Turducken session.
Is the time between an election and the new Congress that was elected being put into office. It's called a Turducken session, as many people refer to it as, because, well, no, so that doesn't quite. It's called the lame duck session because, right, like a bunch of the folks who will be voting between now and the new session starting, are on their way out. Like, voters rejected them. There are some who would say, this is totally fine. They were elected to serve in the House 2-year terms and the Senate 6-year terms, and that term is up in January. That they've been duly elected by the people to serve for this amount of time. That's fine. The counter argument is, if you're on your way out, you could take votes that you wouldn't otherwise take. I think there are some people who say, well, what if they take votes that private interests want them to take, and then they get a payoff, for those votes after they leave office, that kind of thing. And so there are some concerns about Turducken sessions. I'm sorry, we need. If this is going to sell, Melissa, we need to sell it straight. All right.
Turducken forever.
So, quite a bit is going to be covered in this session.
See.
The Respect for Marriage Act, which got the cloture vote
Yes.
last week, which means it's expected to be taken up by the Senate and will pass handily. A version of the bill passed the House in July. Now, they'll need to reconcile these bills, but I don't anticipate any of the compromise language in the Senate being enough of a problem in the House for it not to pass. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe there will be some kind of issue. Now, as a reminder, the Respect for Marriage Act came out of Justice Thomas's. It came as a response to Justice Thomas's opinion in Dobbs, where he raised that maybe Obergefell could be revisited, and so there was a move, I think politically a very smart one, to force a vote. I don't think Democrats expected as many Republicans to vote for it as there have been. I think they were foolish to think that. And the bill basically scraps the Defense of Marriage Act and says that marriages recognized in states need to be recognized in federal law as well. Now, the Senate version includes some compromise language around. Well, so this is the big debate. So it includes language affirming that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is 1990s era religious freedom legislation that was bipartisan, passed with 90 plus votes in the Senate, but has become more controversial as new issues have sort of as the Religious Freedom Restoration Act has come to apply to a new set of issues that sort of cut politically in more complex and harsh sort of ways. Religious Freedom Restoration Act has become more controversial. But the Senate version says, look, that's still active here. It also has some language around, decent people can disagree. Look, I think there's been a lot of discussion, if you've been listening into sort of like Christian commentary on this issue. It's been very divisive over the last week or two. My point of view here, Melissa, is that conservatives have basically been reacting on this issue since 2004. And because they've been reacting and not been proactive, not sought to actually have a hand in determining what the future looks like, but instead have mostly been trying to delay recognition of LGBT relationships, recognition of marriage, same-sex marriage civilly, and then have been, especially post-Obergefell, trying to sort of delay the implementation or the logical sort of outflow of Obergefell. They've been sort of like behind the eight ball. There was legislation called the Fairness for All Act. Full disclosure, I was someone who was at the very sort of foundation of bringing fairness to all federally. And Fairness for All was and it is meant to be paradigm-shifting legislation that provides a new settlement, protecting religious freedom, protecting basic LGBT rights, saying this is the America that we want to live in. The problem in my mind with the Respect for Marriage Act is that the religious freedom protections are coming up as as a compromise to get the Respect for Marriage Act passed. And so what you have now is not a new settlement. What you have is compromise legislation in which much of the right, many Republicans say they flat out oppose it, and much of the left is saying, we'll just come back for more later. And so unfortunately, now whether there's the political momentum and justification to do so is one question. But what this doesn't do, what the Respect for Marriage Act doesn't do is sort of, I don't think it allows us to sort of move on. It doesn't allow us to sort of tell Americans, you're included in the American family. Let's live together. Instead, it's just, we got what we could when we could, and we'll go back for more later. And it just doesn't accomplish what I think Fairness for All was at least aiming at accomplishing, and what actually needs to be accomplished. And so, in my view, the Respect for Marriage Act both does too much and does too little. But this is what's going to be passed. I'm glad for the religious freedom protections. But this issue isn't going anywhere. There's still going to be litigation. All the Supreme Court cases that are sort of in the pipeline. This doesn't do anything to sort of address those from my perspective. And so that's where that is. Melissa, well, first, if you have any comments on that, but what else is coming up in this lame duck session?
Well, we've got
the Turducken session.
You just scared the living daylights out of me. Guys, I just jumped like 5 feet in the air. I don't know, saw someone outside. So what's coming up? The Electoral Count Reform Act.
Yeah.
There should be, and this has been a bipartisan push. We've talked about this before on the podcast. It lays out Congress's role in counting electoral votes following a presidential election. It's waiting on a vote in the Senate. And so we might see a vote in this session just because Dems will want to get that done.
I think it'll go through. Yeah, I think so. It's not a done deal, but I think it's a way to respond to the January 6th commission.
Yep.
It's also, to the extent some Republicans want to, send another message about Trump, that they're, again, not just going to roll out the red carpet for him. I think it's a way to do that. And again, more than 10 Republicans in the Senate have expressed their support for the bill, so they have the votes in the Senate to get it done.
Yes, and we both believe that this legislation is important, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So a couple others, like 3 more that are just, they come up a lot. You probably hear about them a lot. One of them is funding the government. So the deadline to keep the government open is December 16th, because we had a short-term spending bill passed earlier this year. And yes, if it feels like we're constantly having this kind of vote, you are in fact correct. So they will have, as per usual, Congress will have the option of passing another short-term bill, which is a continuing resolution, or a full-year appropriations bill that will fund all, the government agencies and programs. And, if they don't do either, then the government will shut down. And you've probably remember past government shutdowns in the last decade.
Yeah. I mean, so there are going to be debates about Ukraine, debates about sort of COVID pandemic aid, but I expect those to get settled. I really don't sense that there's a big desire to have a government shutdown fight heading into the new year. I think where we potentially could see the fight, and it's really just a matter of whether Democrats want to have the fight is around the debt ceiling.
Debt ceiling, yep.
And so, Melissa, the idea here is that the debt ceiling is kind of an arbitrary imposition the U.S. has placed on itself in terms of how much it can borrow. And you might remember these Obama-era fights around the debt ceiling.
Oh, I sure do.
And so the idea here, the political gambit, is, Democrats control the House and the Senate now. Don't let Republicans have this lever to use against President Biden to sort of artificially force compromise because, they'll say we won't vote to raise the debt ceiling unless you do this. So just take that weapon from Republicans by either eliminating the debt ceiling or raising it to some sort of, incredible number that would never be reached. Obviously, the danger here is that's an attack ad, waiting to happen. Democrats, eliminate debt ceiling or, allow for 10 times the debt, whatever it is. And so Democrats would take a risk at inviting a political hit just to avoid political and in some ways a policy. Remember the because of the debt ceiling fights in the Obama years, remember we were downgraded by
we sure were.
S&P, right?
Yeah, which was a huge deal.
Yeah, no, a huge deal. So
it means that investors are less likely to invest in the United States, which is just like a thing that the United States just should not do, should not have happened to itself. And
so, it's an interesting decision for Pelosi. For Pelosi and Schumer to make. Do they want to move forward and do this? And so be on the lookout for that as well. Vox does note, Turducken sessions have been pretty productive in part because of that. They're the furthest away from the next election, and so you both have members who won't be standing for election in the next time because they're on their way out, and then you also have members feeling like, who's going to remember this vote 2 years from now, or rather, like a lot is going to happen between now and then. I could just vote my conscience here. We could take tough votes now because we'll have a lot of time to explain them or recover from them, etc. And so we'll see how productive this session is. Melissa, anything you want to add about the Turducken session?
Well, the Defense Authorization Act.
Oh,
they're going to work on that as well. That's what funds, the Defense Department. Sorry. And so there's some, I think, discussion particularly around this one, although when you think about it, like funding the Defense Department seems like a pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, there's just this, there's been this debate about this provision on permitting reform that could be a part of the defense authorization. It was a big sort of priority of Senator Manchin. Manchin, I think, is poised again to be a pivotal player in the next Senate, no matter who wins in the Georgia special election. In some ways, even especially so, even if Democrats have an extra seat in the Senate, Manchin is up for re-election in 2024. And so he'll have even, greater sort of political pressure and political considerations in mind over the next 2 years. And so we'll see if Manchin is able to get this provision in the defense authorization. So that's what you can look forward to over the next, say, 6 weeks or so, and then a new Congress will be in, and we'll have a surge of activity. House Republicans promising new investigations. We saw Kevin McCarthy get some revenge on Democrats for Democrats removing some of his members from committees. Kevin McCarthy has said that he won't allow Ilhan Omar to be on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And so, I think we're going to have a much more, contentious politics.
Petty politics.
Yeah, one closing thought, which is, I think Biden has gotten some credit for sort of bringing normal back and boring back. Mm-hmm. And, I do think he has a great amount of control over that. We're going to see if he can keep that going with an oppositional House.
Yep.
I think I think the American people have liked not having political conflicts sort of in the news in their living rooms day to day. And again, Biden has control of that, some control of that, no matter what. It's going to be interesting to see how he tries to kind of keep that going. If House Republicans are doing investigations and voting on antagonistic sort of legislation. And so, that'll be interesting to see. All right, Melissa, I think that's all we have for this episode. We'll be back for the Morning 5 this week, starting on Monday. And, of course, we'll have another episode of Where We Are for you next weekend. Until then, thanks for listening.
Have a good start of your Advent.
Yes, start of Advent. And hopefully folks are getting their Christmas trees up.
Yeah, I mean, tell us if you're a white light Christmas tree person or a colorful light Christmas tree person, because apparently there's like a whole debate. There are two camps.
Yeah, I think I'm a white light guy.
I don't care. I kind of like the colorful lights.
We did pass a house last night that had all the colored lights.
I like colored lights.
It's kind of festive, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're fun.
All right.
Like people hate them.
Yeah, let us know where you stand on that important issue of the day, and we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
It's the end of the week.